Lago from Next Best Picture.
Hi, Giovanni.
Hi, I am pleasantly surprised to be sitting here today with David Oyelowo, the star and executive producer of Government Cheese. Again, thank you so much for being here. After watching the series, I think what stands out about your character, Hampton, is his commitment to faith, and not just his newfound faith in God, but in the bit machine and those closest to him and his family. And I'm curious, as a performer, was that sense of faith ever palpable to you? Did you channel into some moment of your life, an aspect of your craft or those closest to you in terms of faith and how you connected to play that role?
Well, faith plays a big part in my life personally. I'm a Christian, and that has been a rock on which I've built my life, certainly since the age of 16. So I could definitely relate in some ways to that side of the narrative. What I really love about Hampton Chambers, the character I get to play, is you see him really battling with faith. You see a relationship with God that is very alive. There are moments he feels completely in the pocket. He feels completely inspired. He feels connected to God in a way that is inspiring him towards being a better man. And then there are times where he just cannot cede control in that way that a lot of us struggle. And he wants to take the reins of his life back. He makes choices that are detrimental to his family, to his own person. That's a lot of the tension in the show, is that. And I find that relatable because I'm someone that, despite my faith, it is a struggle. In many ways, faith is defined by doubt. I don't think you have one without the other. And so, yes, I can totally relate to that. And that's why I think and hope that Hampton Chambers is going to be relatable to many.
I also think another aspect of Hampton that stands out is the wonderful costume design by Anthony Stein. He's so fashionable. I think also plays into this character. You mentioned this battle. There's a battle of who Hampton wants to present himself to people, who he's trying to be, but who he is also at heart and who he's also trying to change. I was wondering if you could talk about, I mean, looking at you right now, incredibly stylish, just wearing those costumings and how that really got you into Hampton's mind.
Yeah, in some ways, he's a bit of a dandy. You know, he's someone
Yes.
who is constantly aspirational. He may not have the means to have as many clothes as he may like, but the ones he has, he's gonna show up and show out. And he may only have 3 suits, but he'll find a way to combine them with the right tie and the right shirt. And you will treat him with the respect that he both demands and aspires to have. And that's something I really love about Hampton, but also I think is quite common when you have a very aspirational but marginalized individual. It's like they have got to find ways to be taken seriously. This is a man who's coming out of incarceration. He's had this epiphany about a self-sharpening drill, and we were very specific. You only see 2 suits in the show. There's a blue suit and a green suit.
Yeah.
He only has 2 suits, but it's about the way he wears them, not how many of them he has. And so I love the fact that you picked that up, because I think that is also something that is very, very relatable to him as someone pursuing the American dream.
I think also the one that stood out to me the most was on the fishing trip, the button up.
Oh, yeah.
It's the brown is just immaculate on that. And I think also is just the colors of the show, the tone. I love when you do comedies or you get to let loose, because you're in a lot of heavy movies, a lot of intense projects. And I think seeing you in this register, it does have drama you play into, but it's also incredibly funny, but also very surreal. I'm curious as to when you were approaching this project, because you also worked in a producing aspect. Did you find that is what stuck out the most in terms of your breadth of work, of how surreal it was and how much you want to dabble with playing in this type of wavelength?
Well, when Paul Hunter approached me with the short film 6 years ago, the thing that really stood out to me in that script was how unique it felt, both in terms of the combination of comedy, the almost biblical parables that you see exhibited in it, the surreality, the quirkiness of it. There was a groundedness to it, but then there was also a flightiness to it. It was just a very unique, unusual tone, which, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't quite sure if one could stick the landing on. And that's why I'm really glad we did it as a short film to almost have as a proof of concept. And somehow it felt like its own thing. And as a result, it felt something. There was something to pick at here. There was something to embellish. There was something to continue to investigate, because to find something truly fresh in the milieu that is television or film is very rare. You know, I can count on one hand the times in my career where I've got, oh, that was truly unique. I can count on three fingers, to be perfectly honest, and Government Cheese would probably be one of them, and so, yeah, for me, that was the thing that really stuck out to me, and from a producerial point of view, that was one of the main things I was focused on, is how can we maintain that tone through from the short film into a TV series. Sometimes when you spin something short form into long form, it can sort of start to lose steam. But because the show is based on Paul's experience growing up in the Valley, I'm playing a version of his father in this show. There is just so many different avenues to go down, and that again is one of the things that just made it a really potent piece of storytelling to continue to push forward.
I would love to also talk about the actors that surround you in the show. There's so many talented people. I mean, Simone Missick, Bokeem Woodbine is just one of the most underrated actors working today. Adam Beach. I would love about just the conversation you had with the rest of the cast, and in terms of getting the character, especially with your family. I think the dynamic between them is so fascinating, because obviously you spent so much time at your character in prison, and one hand, I'm trying to win them over back. I'm trying to be the cool dad, but also I don't have the same respect I once had in my position. I'm curious, what were the conversations going to that, and bringing those to life?
Yeah, again, one of the beautiful things about being a producer is how you can influence who gets to come play on the show. And selfishly for me, I know that I'm only as good as my scene partners, and to be perfectly honest, you get the right scene partner, they actually elevate your performance. And that was absolutely the case with Bokeem, with Jahi, with Evan, with Simone, with John Ortiz, all these wonderful, great actors who we had to come and join in being in the show. And Bokeem in particular is someone who was such a brilliant surprise for me, not because of the fact that his ability was surprising, but the level of chemistry I feel that we were able to conjure up, and the level of history that it became possible to feel in our relationship. I felt the same with Simone Missick. We did all sorts of things like go ballroom dancing together and things like that, just to build some history into our relationship so that translated on screen. But honestly, with Bokeem, it was just day one. It felt like we had known each other since we were kids. And that was a genuine surprise to me. But that's what happens when you surround yourself with truly talented individuals.
I would say also, because among you being just what I think one of our best working actors today, I think you're also a very good director. I enjoyed The Waterman. I
Thank you.
think, for a lot of directorial debut, especially from actors turned directors, there's a lot of confidence in it. I'm curious if you would ever step back into directing again, possibly in the season 2 of this show.
I loved directing The Waterman, and I love directing generally. The challenge with directing is how much of a time suck it is, and there are just so many things that I want to do, that I aspire to do, and being in TV shows and films are some of those things. I would love to direct on season 2 of Government Cheese. I would love to keep on directing. Period. I think it's very much tied to it being something I'm passionate about, because when you're directing something, you spend a lot of time in preparation, in production, and boy, in post, you watch that thing so many times. You better love it if you're going to do that. And I do love Government Cheese. It's one of the things I've been involved in that I'm most proud of, because like I say, the fresh component to it, but also the contextualization of Black life in a way that doesn't feel monolithic. It's in the 60s, but there's no civil rights, there's no racial struggle. Those things are, of course, present at that time, and it's not that we're denying the fact of those things. It's just not what our show is preoccupied with. And all of those aspects sort of weirdly make the show feel radical as well. And those are absolutely the kind of things that I would not only want to be in, but direct as well.
Well, I'd love to hear that. I would also hate myself if before I left I did not ask. I think one of the most underrated films of the past, like 20 years, is A Most Violent Year. And I would love to know if you would ever be. I know Jessica Chastain's talked about wanting to come back to that world and those characters, especially where it left off. I was wondering, I know, would you ever return, especially how it set up the next phase with you and Oscar? I feel like that was just an incredibly underrated movie that I feel more people are starting to get to now as time goes, and as social media and Netflix and streaming. But I was curious your thoughts on that experience, possibly returning. And
I'm the one who periodically on this very frustrating email thread that we have and going, so are we doing the next one? JC keeps threatening to sit down and write it. The first one was set in 1981. We want to do the next one in 1991. 10 years later, we're just all waiting on JC to write this darn script. Myself, Jessica, Oscar, we're all ready to go. So please tell JC to pull his finger out and get on with it. Because no, I loved doing that film. Those actors are generational talents, and I think it would be super interesting to do another one.
Well, I speak for everyone. If I ever have to interview or run into him, I will let you know from you personally. But again,
please.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Government Cheese is an incredibly delightful show. I think how it stacks up in your entire filmography, I think, is quite impressive. And I think the work you're doing here and the rest of the cast and crew is great. So thank you so much for stopping by today.
Much appreciated. Thank you so much.